Hello, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Doug Barlow, and it is my distinct privilege to share with you a short presentation on how you can use our Transform30 as a vehicle to achieve independence or own your own life. Now, when I think of the concept of owning your own life or being independent, I like to use the analogy of going on holiday or traveling whenever you'd like to. And for anyone to go on holiday, that requires three things. You need to have a certain amount of free time, you need to have some disposable income, and you need to have your health. So this presentation is all about the journey that I embarked on to create a program that allowed me to own my own life. I'll share a little bit about my story. I'll share some of the personal challenges I experienced in achieving my own lifestyle and creating ultimate freedom. I'll share some of the most common misperceptions and objections in regards to this unique business model. Is it a pyramid? Most of the population is allergic to selling. They don't want to sell. And so many of us are caught up in the rat race that we don't even have a spare minute to realize that what we're currently doing is never going to get us where we really want to go. I'll help you understand a system that allows you to be independent if that's the path you'd like to pursue. And if you like what you hear, you can get started immediately. My story begins with the fact that neither of my parents completed a higher education, and my dad thought that it was important enough for me to get an education to get ahead in life. So he helped me get a congressional appointment to the United States Merchant Marine Academy, where I achieved an engineering degree, as well as a Coast Guard license as an operating engineer on merchant ships. And I thought I had achieved the American dream at a very young age because working as an operating engineer on ships, I not only got to travel the world, but for 6 to 7 months of employment, I was able to create a tremendous amount of disposable income, which left me with almost 6 months of free time to travel the world, participating in many small international sailboat regattas. I got to travel the world as a mountaineer, and I pretty much, was living the American dream as a young man, doing whatever I wanted to do with the resources required to do that. However, when the Exxon Valdez ran aground, the romance of going to sea disappeared overnight, and no matter how much I appreciated the money and the free time, getting on a ship after a while felt like I was in prison with a chance of drowning, so I needed to look elsewhere for employment. And for the most part, that meant I was looking at joining the ranks of the 9 to 5, where I was going to take a huge cut in pay. More importantly, I was going to lose all that free time I had grown accustomed to. I'd worked for enough other people and realized its limitations and thought about being my own boss or starting my own company, but didn't really have any experience in that and was a little intimidated. So I was really left in a position where do I go to maintain this amazing lifestyle that I had created for myself early on? One of the things that I also discovered was that I was going to have to broaden the scope of my search. I'd invested a lot of time and energy in engineering school, and it's hard to kind of realize that, wow, maybe that's not really my true destiny. But I ask, how many people today are really doing what they went to school for? And I'll always thank my friend for sharing a great book with me, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's written by Mr. Robert Kiyosaki. And in it, he describes the 4 common ways that people produce income. Myself included, as an employee, I'm with 95% of the population, where we trade our valuable time for money as either an employee or a self-employed person. And this is where 95% of the population lives, but we only have access to 5% of the wealth. However, on the right side of the quadrant, there's the concept of being a business owner or an investor. And a lot of people, if they own their own business, but their income depends on their time, then you really don't own a job. Then you really just own a job. You don't really own a business. And a business implies that you have a system or a network of people that allows you to generate profits without your direct input. Once you start generating profits with a business system, you can invest those profits to make even more money, And here again, it doesn't necessarily require your direct input of trading time for money. The other thing that I got excited about was that while only 5% of the population lives on the right side of this quadrant, they have access to 95% of the wealth. So I highly recommend that if you're looking for something different, take advantage of this book by Robert Kiyosaki. The other thing that I realized is that for me to move from the left side, the employee value system, to the business owner system, I was going to have to kind of change my core values. And when I shared, in the beginning, when I shared this information, a lot of people would often ask me, oh, is this one of those pyramid things? So let's take a look. If you're an employee, you're typically part of the corporate structure. And as an employee, you're always eventually looking for a pay raise or a promotion. But it's sometimes unclear what you need to do to move yourself up the ladder. And for most of us as an employee, we never, ever will have access to owning that company, being the boss or the CEO. So there's really kind of a false ceiling living in that particular illustration of a pyramid. But what happens if you turn that pyramid upside down? Well, in the network marketing model, no matter what your previous experience is, we all start at the very beginning, and we all have the same opportunity to reach the top. There's no limitation in getting to the top, and there's usually a very defined path that allows you to go from start to the very top of the program with encouragement from other people who have done it before you. And if you're looking at, the concept of being an employee, when was the last time that your boss encouraged you to take on his position? I just don't think that happened. So very excited when people ask me, is this a pyramid? And I get to actually show this illustration. So I'm going to share a little bit how I did it. And I think for most of us, you have to establish a why. Why do you want to venture out of the employee realm and go towards the right side where there's tremendous, much greater opportunity? For me, it was pretty much economic. I was looking to replace a 5-figure monthly income. And I made a commitment to myself to do just that. I knew that I was a great wage earner, and as an employee, I was always working to improve somebody else's status. The question I had was, could I work just as hard, but for this time, could I do it for myself? The other thing that I realized is that I had to be open-minded and I had to be willing to re-educate myself. A friend of mine said, hey, if you want to learn more about this business model, you have to come attend some business trainings. And I'll always thank that person for that, because what I heard at this first presentation changed my life forever. They talked about the concept of network marketing as a vehicle where if you wanted to, you could compress a lifetime's worth of work into 2 to 4 years. Now, at the time, I was 33 years of age. As I said, I'd have just enough life experience that I was kind of a little bit dissatisfied working for someone else. And I thought to myself, wow, what if I could actually retire by the time I was 40? And my question for all of you is, how often does work get in the way of having a good time? So for me, I realized that if I was going to compress a lifetime's worth of work into a 2 to 4 year span, I would have to get seriously motivated. I also realized that one of the pieces of advice that I was told was find a buddy. And I realized that a buddy would help me stay on track. A buddy would, whether it's my sponsor or someone else in the organization, maybe it's your spouse or your significant other, but a buddy allows you to overcome some of the challenges that you'll face on your journey, as well as celebrate your successes. Now, in terms of highly motivated, I realized I had a good work ethic, and if I was going to compress a lifetime's worth of work into 2 to 4 years, I was probably going to have to get busy. So what does busy look like? Well, I'll ask you, if you shared the concept of creating free time and disposable income so that you could travel and go on holiday whenever you wanted to, if you shared this concept with 2 people a day, 5 days a week, do you think that a few of your friends might be interested in joining you? And the reality for me is that within a 6-month period, of consistently applying my energy and excitement for a better way, I was actually starting to have an impact in my future, which meant that I could cover my overhead, which at that time was a house mortgage and some simple bills. Now, let's talk about some of the challenges when you share this concept with people. In sharing this newfound system, many people will automatically discount themselves because they can't sell or they don't have any free time to explore options around improving their lifestyle. And this is a big misperception about network marketing and a key aspect of my becoming a student of the industry. And I can't say enough about educating yourself about how amazing this industry really is. And when you consider that network marketing in 2010, which is 4 years ago, it produced over $200 billion in sales and services. Today, it's an even bigger opportunity than it was back then. But let's take a look at, the concept of selling. Now, if you were going to make $100 per customer, how many customers would you have to sell if you wanted to earn $5,000 a month? And what if you wanted to earn more? So my analogy is that of the pipeline. Working on ships, I carried an awful lot of oil around the world. And when they discovered oil up on the North Slope of Alaska, they didn't really have to sell the concept. I mean, we live in a world today where most people understand that oil is a source of energy, and we all use that energy. So you don't need to sell anybody on that concept. And in terms of creating a lifestyle where you own your own life, having free time, disposable income, and your health, these are three things that the average person is happy to say, yes, I want more of. So if you go about building the infrastructure or you go about building the pipeline, once you have the pipeline built, guess what happens? The oil simply flows through it. There's very little selling involved. So one of the key aspects to our business is learning that it's not about selling. It's really about teaching people a system for how goods get distributed to the end consumer. So here's the secret. If I can teach and train Tom how to teach and train Carol, how to educate Betty such that Betty can see the value of this program, not only have I not sold anything, but I've seriously reduced the amount of time that it takes in terms of building a network of like-minded people. And once you have built this network, here again, you don't really sell, but product does have to get shared. If no product moves, no one gets paid. But in this system, you teach people how to build the network, and then the product, like the pipeline, eventually just flows through it. So let's talk about how could you build your own personal pipeline or your own matrix of a huge organization of people. Now, in my experience, the concept of owning your own life and wanting to go on holiday whenever you want to, I had a couple of friends, Larry and Sandy, who were very keen on the same concept that I shared with, that was shared with me. And when I shared that with them, I asked them if they knew two people in their life that they thought would like to go on holiday or travel more often. And what happens is if everybody shares this simple concept, two people share it with two other people, you wind up with 4. Those 4 people share it with 2 people in their life, you wind up with 8. And by the time you've duplicated this process 5 generations, you end up with a total of 62 people in your infrastructure. Now, the reality of my situation is that I not only knew Larry was interested, so was Sandy, but I also knew my friend Holly was interested. And look what happens if you add one more person to this educational matrix. You share with 3 people, and then you teach them to share with 3 people, and then you oversee those 3 people to share with their 3 people. You wind up with 27 on the 3rd generation, 81 on the 4th generation, 243 on the 5th generation, and you total out with 363 people in your network. Now notice the difference between 363 and 62. All we did was teach one more person about our system. And in terms of the overall picture, when you look at governments, the military, corporate structure, the church, the average leadership capacity of the average person is such that you can manage about 5 people directly, and you can help them manage 5 people. And so let's look at the 5 by 5 matrix. By the time you get to the 3rd generation of 125 people, according to the book Tribal Leadership, you've pretty much maxed out your ability to influence people. So it's imperative that you have a simple, duplicatable system. What is that system? Who do you know in your life that wants to own their own life or travel or go on more holidays? So with a 5 by 5 matrix, if you duplicate it 5 generations down, you wind up with a total of 3,905 people. Now, here's the significance of building the infrastructure, as we talked about in the pipeline. Once you have this matrix of people, what if everyone does $25 of product or service? And whether it's dollars or euros or pounds, it doesn't really matter. But if you take 4,000 people and everybody uses $25 of product or service, and you earn 5% of that, guess what? You've just generated $5,000 per month. Now, what if you have a program where your network uses $100 or 100 pounds or 100 euros? What if they use 200 pounds, 200 euros, $200? You can do the math, but the important thing to realize is that it's the power of the network. And in closing about this network concept, my experience is that building a team is so much more fun and fulfilling than simply just building a customer base, but you have to get the power of this geometric progression. And the reality is, 20 years ago, I was 33 years of age. This is what I discovered for myself. And today, this is what it's created for me. And I've been living this life now for over the last, for more than 15 years now. It took me a couple years to make it happen, but for the last 15 years, I've experienced the ultimate in health and vitality. I have the ultimate freedom in that I own my own life. I can vacation and travel whenever I want to. This program, while I'm self-employed and I have all the tax advantages of owning my own program, I also qualify for a full medical benefits for all my loved ones. My income is stable and passive, and this business has unlimited growth potential. So once you've created your first 5 by 5 matrix, you can go about finding other people, because there's never been more. We live in a time where there's never been more people who are looking to take control of their own health and well-being, and we've never lived in a time where there's more people who are looking to kind of get a leg up on, living their life of dreams and owning their own life. So, once you've built this matrix, as I mentioned, the product just flows through it. But who's responsible for the product? Well, I'd like to introduce you to the Juice Plus Company, established in 1970, privately held, virtually debt-free. As a product introduction company, the company has done over $10 billion in sales in 22 different countries. They have a strong management team, and they operate with a tremendous amount of integrity. Now, the mission statement for the president and founder of the company, Mr. J. Martin, he says his mission statement is to build a stable and lasting company that will help as many people as possible to realize their dreams. Notice that it's not about generating profits at the consumer's expense to satisfy shareholders' expectations. So my question for you is, does your current situation allow you to realize your dreams and the quality of life that you would hope to live? Our mission, in terms of be independent, we go about inspiring healthy living around the world. And you have to ask yourself, is that a noble enough cause for you to kind of seek out building a network of people where you can be independent by inspiring healthy living around the world? So, if you like what you've heard, you may be asking, How do I get started? Well, first of all, you have to start thinking differently about your life. As I mentioned, I started off with an employee mentality on the left side of that cash flow quadrant, and it took a little bit of education time. I had to kind of marinate in the concept that, you know what, this is actually a simple enough system that I too could own my own business. You have to say yes to transforming your life and your health with Transform30. Sign up to be a platinum program consumer. Start reading Don Fala's book, The 45-Second Presentation That Will Change Your Life. Start journaling your why for doing this business. I can't say enough about a why. You have to have enough passion to pursue this dream, because while it's no different than living your life, the return on your investment is dramatically different than just going about joining the ranks of the 9 to 5, doing the same old thing over and over. Start making your list of people you want to share this exciting program with. Who do you know that you'd like to go on vacation with more or travel more with? And begin to plan your first event with your sponsor's help. And how do you plan that first event? Again, who do you know that would like to own their own life? When I say own my own life, I'm talking about when you subtract the time you sleep, the time you commute to work, the amount of time you work, the other family responsibilities and obligations you may have. At the end of the day, how much free time do you actually have access to, and do you have the finances to do what you really want to do? And how much time does it take? 5 to 10 hours a week maximum. Maybe you have to stop watching television or put a little extra time into educating yourself, but I can tell you it's well worth it. So, in summary, I truly believe that if you become a student of network marketing, you, like myself, will realize that this is the best model for the average person to get ahead in life and own your own life. Finding a great product is key. You may have already done that, and if not, you'll definitely have to check out the Transform30 channel on YouTube with Dr. Mitra Ray, and here's the link if you need that. You want to really fall in love with helping other people. Put on your entrepreneurial hat and realize that for you to get ahead and build a strong team of like-minded people, you're going to have to teach a simple system to other people so that they can teach it on to their community, and so on and so forth, as I shared earlier. Building a network of like-minded people who want to travel and go on holiday is a much better proposition than working for someone else, and it will dramatically improve your chances of owning your own life. On that note, I want to thank you for your time and your interest. I'll wish you all the best on your journey, and hopefully we'll get to share some world travels with you the next time we go on holiday.